What's up, guys? It is Wednesday, January 28th, and we are winding down the workout week. Today might be our last week, a day. We might work out tomorrow, depending on how our body feels. But let's hop into the hand history. We played around 9 hours yesterday and lost around $275. We lost 1,500 right within the first hours and just had to dig our way out. So let's set up the hand history. In the small blind, we have what we'll call tighty whitey. We pretty much takes everything. The table was pretty bad. There's a lot of tight players on there, and so we started having to push our edges a little bit more. So we have the small blind. We have a tighty whitey with $500. Then in the big blind, we have Tindian. If you don't know what a Tindian is, go back to some previous video. We have a Tindian with $370. Then in middle position one, we have me with $500. I just pretty much kind of just got there. Then the hijack is another tighty whitey with $800. So the play goes, everybody folds to me. I look down with king of diamond, nine of diamond. And so I bet to 20, standard, nothing unusual. And the hijack calls. And then the small blind and the big blind all call. The flop comes king of club, eight of spade, seven of spade. And the pot is now around $80. So this is of course the small blind and big blind checks to us. So this is a very wet board with four ways where I felt like if I bet here and get called, it's going to run out not that many things in my favor. And then if I were to check the turn, it would pretty much give away the strength of my hand and I could be bluffed off here. So what I did was I turned my hand into a bluff catcher instead. And I went ahead and check with the intention of seeing what happens. When I check here, if the hijack does bet and his bet sizing is on the weaker side, and then one of the blinds do call, then my plan was to do a check raise, because then I can get some better hands that are better than mine, like king 10, maybe king jack to fold, maybe even ace king, because tighty whiteys. But I don't think so, at least not to one check raise. So, but at least I can get two better hands off of my hand. And then the hands that stick around are the ones that I beat, like flush draws and straight draws. So I check and the hijack bets 40, and everybody folds to me. So the plan now is to stick with what we intended, was to use our head as a bluff catcher. So when he bets 40, I think 40 or 50 into, then I call. So the turn comes the jack of clubs. And now the pot is around $180. So it's not a good card for our range, really, but at the same time, it is a good card for us to keep catching bluffs, because now 10 jack now has a pair and a straight draw, so he might semi bluff here. So when we check, he bets $80 to $180 pot. And this bet looks too suspicious, right? On the flop, if he had king queen, two pair, he would have bet larger and then continue larger. And if he had queen jack and was kind of like semi bluffing, then he should also bet larger here with two pair. Even with ace king, he would have bet larger. So there's not that many hands that we are concerned with that beat us now, besides maybe king 10, but a lot of this looks like a semi bluff. Maybe let's see, a king with a flush draw, 10 jack now has a flush draw, but I think he would bet bigger. So I think there's a lot of weak made hands that are semi bluffing in this spot with that $80 bet. So I decided to check raise all in. And of course, then he doesn't even think about it. He calls. And then the turn comes the 7 of clubs. And then I turn over king 9, and the hijack turns over king of spade, 4 of spade, for a now chop pot. So we made the correct play. We did everything correctly. It just the river didn't run out for us. We made the right reads, and we put him on a semi bluff, and we got him to stick his money in behind. So it was a good play by us. We had a plan, and we stuck to it based on the outcome. So that's the end of the day. Let's hit the gym, and let's continue. Let's try to pick up another win today. See you in a little bit. Welcome back, guys. So let's continue with the reflection part. Yesterday we touched on the topic that poker can be a good training ground for PTSD and ADHD. So let's dive deeper into that segment. So ADHD is pretty much easy to understand, right? It's attention deficit disorder. I forgot what the H stand for, but so the problem with that is that it's rooted in the lack of ability to control the mind and to focus. Right, our attention is just constantly being pulled in all directions, and we think that it's a disease, and then we prescribe medicine for it. And really, the root of the sickness is because we have never trained ourselves to focus our attention. So as we grew up, our attention has always been diffused, and now by providing medication, we're not really treating the sickness, we're just kind of alleviating the symptoms. And it makes it worse because now we're dependent on an external source for our capacity to operate. But let's dive deeper into PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, right? What is that really? It is trauma that we feel is when negative emotions arise based on certain conditions and thoughts of events that's happened in the past, right? So the root of the trauma is in the manifestations of the thoughts that triggers the arising of emotions. So we can hone in on the thoughts and see and have the focus, then we could see the root of the emotions, right? So, but it's very difficult it's easier to say than to do, right? It's very difficult when these strong negative emotions arise and it encapsulates us. It takes over our mind and we're no longer able to function because our perception and our vision has been disorientated because now we cannot see farther than and perceive farther than our emotions. So how do we treat this, right? How do we work on this? Well, the best way to do this is that we need to a way to be able to practice handling negative emotions. And as we able to focus and practice handling these negative emotions, we get stronger each time because we see what these emotions come from, and we watch it and we persevere through it and we pierce through it until it dissipates, because all emotions arise and perish. Good, bad, desires, everything rises and perish with thoughts. So poker, if we look at it, is a good laboratory, a confined environment that we could simulate suffering. We could simulate events that triggers negative emotions, so that when these negative emotions do arise, we have the ability to practice dealing with it a little bit at a time, right? Tilt, when you lose a small pot, you're able to handle the negative emotions that arise because it's very small. But then things on a larger scale is hard, like losing a big, massive all-in pot. So if we can work on handling these emotions every time they arise at the poker table, in real life, when the stronger one comes around, we're able to handle it more. And so the poker table allows us to simulate emotions so that we can deal with it in a confined environment and practice dealing with it little by little and little by little, so that we work our progress up, so that when the time comes, we have that practice and we have that ability to deal with these emotions. And that is where the origin of post-traumatic stress disorder is the arising of negative emotions, right? So rather than using poker as a form of escape for a lot of people, escaping trauma and we should use it as an opportunity to instead work on the problems that we have. And then we can get better, and then we don't no longer need an escape because we can face all problems as they arise. That's it for today. I'll see you tomorrow.